We'll call the May 19th Town Planning Board meeting to order. First item we have on our agenda tonight is the meeting minutes from May 5th. One thing is I got a email from the fire marshal about on page 3. And it says the fire marshal approved the proposed evacuation plan. I don't know if that's what we said, but he also said that the fire chief reviewed it and said it was approvable. I don't think you make them, even if that's what we said at the meeting minute, you can't change the meeting minutes. We can make note of it tonight. That it should have been the fire chief and not the fire marshal, right?
Right.
And I have just one question about the minutes. Is Hillary going to file copies of her approvals from the health department and her liquor license with the town? Or is that just commonplace when she has those conditions that she files those with the town so they know that it's been?
She's supposed to provide them to the town.
She will provide them to the
That's what
town.
she's supposed to do.
Okay,
Yeah.
For the special use permit.
right, for her special use permit.
I think, yeah.
I got a couple things. On the Austin site plan, fourth paragraph, on page 1, Mr. Voorhees stated the driveway turnaround should be 10 feet from the property line. And also on page 2, the condition, driveway turnaround shall be 10 feet from the property line.
Any further discussion? Make a motion for approval of minutes as amended.
Make a motion.
Motion Brown, second from Merle. Further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Next item on the agenda we have tonight is the sickle site plan. Requesting approval to encroach the house into the FAD area, 30-foot, and lawn area into the FAD area, 65-foot. Property is located, that's a mistake, it's not on Cheese Factory Road. This is Sean Place, correct? In Spring Meadows. All right. I'm here to represent this request, and I do want to say this is for us to make a recommendation to the town board.
Jim Sickles, hello everybody. I just got, I think we just got a drawing there. Simply a fairly large lot. There's just a, give you guys a heads up on this. This is the back outside of Whispering Meadows, 13 lot subdivision. When it was approved, they gave up a bunch of fat in the back for whoever, and abutting lots on each side of it. Two lots on each side of it that are built on, and the houses happen too. The reason we're trying to keep a little continuity is these are actual locations of them. And we're just trying to keep the continuity of these houses going around the cul-de-sac like this. And for this particular lot, we don't build a house out in front of the others. And again, penetration into the FAD is pretty minimal considering the acreage that it is. We won't touch that footprint that we've outlined that much. There might be some fading into it, but there's going to be some trees in there that we are going to leave to have a minimum impact on the area. And frankly, the house is 7 years. I don't think there was but one tree that was even good, and that wasn't a whole lot of tree there. So there was some dead trees in there and some ash that were already dead.
So I think we got the letter of intent, so you're looking to push it back into the FAD.
40 feet.
45. Okay.
Yes, and actually the house is only going, the house is minimal, it's only going back about 15 feet over.
Okay.
15, 20 feet for a house footprint.
Okay. And you own the lot?
Yes,
And you're trying to sell, okay. And when did you buy the lot?
I'm sorry.
When did you buy the lot?
We bought this subdivision quite a while ago. 15, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. That's a good question, I can't remember that.
Years kind of fly by.
I do. Yeah, it's like 4 lots left in the subdivision now, 13 lot total.
So just reviewing the FAD. Conservation easement restriction, which was put in place 1998. It was in place when you bought it. Looking at some of the restrictions is for the construction. Prevents construction, clear cutting the trees, removal of vegetation, ground cover, or change in topography. I mean, it looks like you'd be grading and removing trees.
Yeah, decent
that
tree
area.
removal, ground topography would be minimal. But it's gonna be a walkout type lot, house that, for this here, half a walkout, so that'll be pretty minimal, just there's a negative around the house for water and, but we certainly wouldn't do a lot more than around the house, probably 15, 20 feet. And again, this whole area, not only this lot, I guess you want to say 2/3 of this lot is FAD, for comparison. And then these lots over here are in the FAD too, so the percentage here is, I don't know if it's 5%, in that particular subdivision.
So, and you're looking not to build in the area that's not within the FAD, because you'd like to push it back.
Correct.
I guess I'm just, I mean, it's been in place for a while. The FAD's been in place for a while, is what I'm looking at. There are some trees back in there. I guess fellow planning board members, what are your thoughts? We do have a good bit of conservation easements through here in the town. And they're to protect resources in there, which it looks like those resources are within this FAD. And the Conservation Board has said that there are resources in there that would be protected. Thoughts about tree inventories and whatnot. They're also curious about why the proposed building was not within the area that was outside of the FAD.
I'll make a comment. We had, oh my goodness, probably 75 pines in that subdivision, if not more, that are quite mature throughout the subdivision. So if we're taking out 20 trees, we probably quadrupled that from the subdivision and what we planted. And that was the developer did that, amongst other homeowners, of course, add to that, I know that's not a trade-off. We do wetland mitigation on the commercial side of us, and that's 2 for 1.
Planning board members, any thoughts?
One of my thoughts is that we did just update our comprehensive plan. In our comprehensive plan, we reviewed the easements and the conservation areas and the APODs, and we were all very firm in the fact that we wanted to be strong against any building in any of those for any reason. So that's just my, that's just my opinion there, that we talked about this months ago and it was something we reviewed. So I'm afraid that if we were to make exceptions, then people would come back and say, well, you made an exception for this lot. And they put in more trees, so we put in more trees. So now we think that we should be able to also encroach upon an easement. And I'm not 100% sure that that's a precedent that, although I can completely understand their need and their desire, I also think that you purchased the property and you knew the easement was there when you purchased it. So that's a whole nother, that's a whole nother thing. So I'm probably not 100% sold that we should be granting an easement for that, especially because it's only 15 feet. I mean, it's not that big of an area.
Yeah, that was the idea, to be minimum impact. If you go back to DEC rules on wetlands, which we all know is pretty tough, that truly is 2 for 1. Done it several times in projects, maybe 7 or 8 different times. We go in and take out a wetlands, create a parking lot or whatever that for, we're usually in a commercial project, we go somewhere else and we create 2 for 1. And if you take 20 trees out, we planted 75, which I have to count. I bet there's more than that even. It must be more like 4 to 1. I don't know, that's a thing you could say to your other people that were doing this. If you set a precedence, maybe you gotta have some kind of ratio like that you created more trees. It's a tree deal is what it is. It's not that steep. It's not it says it's a woodlands type thing. It's not one of those steep slope deals where it's pretty gradual. So it's mostly a tree deal.
Excuse me, I have a question. Are we allowed to make comments or is that later on?
Absolutely. This is your application, I'm assuming.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm Peggy McGuire, this is my husband, Kevin McGuire. We're looking to build with Jim on the property, so that's why we're very interested. We're here for that. We are 25-year residents of Pioneer Falls. We live on Pride Street. Our kids went through the district, and we live on Pride Street that's backing up to the new Wolfberger development. So we're looking to move somewhere where we have a little bit more space, a little more privacy. We're looking to keep, as many trees as possible. We want a secluded site, something that's going to be an improvement to the neighborhood, not a detriment at all to either the trail behind it or the neighborhood itself. So we're just looking to to fit in with the neighboring houses. And I don't know if this would help, but I have a couple,
Actually, this shows it there too.
it's like an overlay, and I don't, just if you wanted to see, these are the houses that are there, that's the circle. This is the house where proposed placement and the other two existing, just so you can see. We don't want to be in front of those other, yeah. Okay. I don't know if you can have it. So we're looking to not be in front of those other two houses and be encroaching on their view when they're looking out. We love the property, the fact that there is so many trees, and we like the fact that the trail is there. We don't necessarily want, we would not be interested in removing any of the barrier between the trail and the property itself. And as Jim stated, you know, there are several trees that are not thriving right there in the spot existing right now, but trees we were taking out, we would like to put, you know, more trees in to even buffer from neighbors as well as, you know, behind the house. So that's where we stand as far as what we're looking to do. I just wanted to make sure you were clear on the fact that we didn't want to have a negative impact on that area of Mendon.
And I can appreciate that, and I think, you know, as Lauren said, you know, kind of looking at the precedence of it sets, and I don't see a plan with this for replacement of trees. There is no yellow line on the ground out there, but when I went through, I saw some rather large pine trees that where the slope started to go down. And I think that, you know, I'm leaning towards agreeing with Lauren that, you know, we don't want to set the precedent of what the FAD was put in place for. I mean, you know, we need to remember, yes, it might be a small area of this lot, but if you look at the overall subdivision, I don't think it's a lot of the subdivision that was put into the FAD.
Yeah, all the pines that are there are outside the FAD that we planted. They're mature, they're 20 footers, 30 footers, 25 footers anyway. In the woods, there's no pines in the woods. Ash. There might be some white oak in there, some stuff like that, you know. Footprint of the house, and I say 20 trees, there might not be that many, that's the max. It might be a dozen to 15 trees that are in the area, but then again, half of them are dead. This is just poking in the wood, you know, just in the woods, you know, it's not.
I have a question for you. This, how far is it from this proposed back to the FAD line? This one,
Well,
I'm looking at this one right here, which was.
Yeah.
It doesn't go scale, it's just one building, so the back of the house to here, and then also from the back of the house to the front of the house, what is the actual feet?
of the house.
Yeah, the house, yeah, the post house.
That's a good question. She wants to answer the house. And the footprint of the house from the back.
24, okay.
Yeah, so. And you put that FAD line through 1/3, 2/3.
And then you also have the house sitting pretty close to where separated. sitting here somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Well, where, I mean,
It's a little proposed in this one.
right,
This is from the house going back to the family, right? And then where it is now, I mean, your house would be sitting right here,
way on front.
way out front. So I'm trying to find out from where the back of the proposed and the plans to the fad line is, and then you can figure out where it is to there. Into it.
You know, it's just guessing at the boxes. You know, typical subject boxes are 36, say 36, so it's probably double that, and then some 40 feet, maybe 4 feet ahead.
Okay.
That's way ahead. That's the problem. It sort of sticks in front of this house.
It looks as though you're pushing the front of the house back 90 foot.
Yeah, that's probably,
90 to 95.
yeah, it's maybe not quite that close to that, you know.
And of that 95 feet, as an example, you're saying 15, maybe 20 of it is in the one.
Is it, yeah, the house is probably in 2/3 of the 44. Just looking at it proportionally on the figure map.
And then the grade would be 65 foot.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, guys, there's gonna be trees in this site that we're not gonna take out in that box. You know, I would say several, you know, and we're gonna grade around them. We're just putting footprint in there, you know. That's the building inspector, so we step out of line, we get stepped on, so, you know, so, you know, somebody sneaks out there and feathers out some topsoil, you know, a little grass, we just have a little cushion for that, you know. But by no means are we planning on clearing out that box. Right, that's totally, you know, not intended. And this pad is, if I, you know, just correct myself on it, it's called steep slopes in wooded areas, right? So, and it's not really a steep slope deal, it's pretty gradual. You can see that on the topo. All the way back to the trail, pretty consistent. As a matter of fact, up front, where we're at here, it's pretty flat. It actually crowns about where the fad line is. And goes, you know, tapers to the back, and the front tapers to the front. Front's fairly flat though, all the way back. And then, so it's more of a tree deal, I guess, if you want to call it, you know.
But it isn't. It's a line deal. It isn't a tree deal. It could be a metal. The fact that it's a conservation easement put in by a previous administration and a group.
Did you develop all the other properties too? Were you the builder for the other
This
homes?
is a builder, we didn't develop the subdivision. Actually, we sort of finished it, but we didn't get the approvals or any of that.
I'm just wondering that wasn't a thought process as the other homes were also placed, that that might become an issue in the
As
future.
a matter of fact, one house was built and it got in there, lot 8 was in there, going to the east, and so.
Tom and I were just kind of talking, I mean, there's 60 foot to push back and you would still be outside of the easement. That's where I'm at. I'm sorry, I don't see anything in front of me to change my recommendation.
That, I mean, even at 60, 65, 70 feet, you're still gonna be, when you look at that, you'll still be behind these houses. Right. You'll still be behind them. Maybe a little on this one, but your garage, the main house is further down. So maybe you'll be in on the garage a little bit, but not on the house.
Yeah, just sort of playing the yard for the circle.
Yeah.
You know, that's what we're.
And I understand your request and your desire, I just, you know, we've got the feds that have been in place on this one for 23 years, you know, and there's other developments we can.
And ours is a recommendation.
Yes, ours is a recommendation.
Can he go build the town board without us?
The town board has requested our recommendation.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
And
Okay, so
we
probably-
requested ECB's recommendation. And the ECB said they felt that there was area outside of the FAD also. And, you know.
Yeah, the line's put right at the woods too, it's clearly for the trees, you know, that's why they put it there. When they did it, you know.
So is it ultimately the line issue, or if a more detailed plan specific to the trees that would be retained and trees that would be planted to offset would make a difference, or is it ultimately come down to the line and not wanting to make, and I understand why, not wanting to make an exception that could be, that we would set a precedence for?
Yeah,
So if
we
that's
have a
all-
lot of fads in the.
Because we can do a lot in terms of planning and moving the house around and remediating any impact on trees. But I can't change where the line is, only you can do that.
That would be the town board.
Right. But you could recommend it and then they could take that recommendation.
Let me ask you guys, nobody's ever poked into a fad and mended ever?
They come back, and when they do, they have to remove things, is what it comes down to.
Wow.
The only one-
We put septics in wetlands. How about that one?
But is there a filed easement there?
Yeah,
like the
well,
one
for
that's-
wetlands, DEC wetlands, we get permission. 100-foot setbacks and 100-foot buffers,
But on a perpetual easement, that's
that's DEC.
one thing that
wetlands.
gets me right in here is perpetual, filed in 1998. And to convey from this owner to future owners.
Wow.
How much grading are you really looking at the end now?
Well, if it's, you know, it's a walkout, it is minimal, but it's probably 10 feet, you know. You gotta get a machine around and, you know, we're, you know, if they, you know, you gotta build a house too, it's like 10, 15 feet. With no, you know, without any trees, you gotta get around there, I think, you know.
In the 30 years I was code enforcement officer, the only one I know of was a Partridge Howl, and there were deck posts, 3 deck posts that were in the easement. The deck
Okay.
was up above
Mhm,
because it dropped off on a slope, steep slope.
mhm.
In the last how many years, Tom, did you say?
Pardon me?
In the last how many years was that?
31 years that I was there.
So we're asking for a miracle.
Okay, you guys are dense out here. This is country, man.
No.
Yeah, well,
I think, this way I'm leaning, Maureen, Chris. No, I'm leaning towards not recommending that. Okay,
nice.
all right.
Guys are working on the assessor next one, assessment, right? Thanks for your time, guys. Yeah. You ladies.
Next item we have on our agenda tonight is public comment. Public comment, general discussion. I think have a letter drafted. Do we need we don't need a motion for that letter, do we?
Wouldn't hurt either.
Wouldn't hurt. Drafted a letter basically based off of our discussion about setting a precedence. There is area that's to be built, that they can adjust it. 1998 is when it was put in place, and this property was purchased since that time with it in place. So that pretty much summarized the letter.
Yeah,
There's a discussion and recommendation from the conservation board.
Yes.
Yeah, so it basically says that this has been in place since 1998. It says it's perpetual, that it's permanent. It prohibits development. You know, basically that we're not sure we would ever allow this. But if we were to allow it, it would have to be a very compelling reason. And there doesn't seem to be a real compelling reason here to allow it. And the ECB recommended disallowing it also. So for all those reasons, we're recommending that you don't encroach an easement.
Yeah, it comes down to they want to. It's the only thing I heard.
Right,
Pretty much, that was,
they want to push it back.
right, and I'm like, you know, you've owned the property, you know where that easement was, like, I just have such a hard time getting my head around the fact that he's owned it for so long. He's a builder, even if he didn't build the houses around it, he, I'm sure had conversation and input, like, I just don't understand. And then I thought he was a little rude when he was like, well, his comments about us being kind of rural and with lots of land and all of that. I'm like, this should make no difference.
So you want to keep it that way.
That's why we have fence.
Oh, yeah, that's what I mean.
That's why we don't have quarter acre lots.
Oh, my goodness.
There won't be a tree or steep slope left in that town, there's a, it'll be flat as a platter.
So I think the letter is drafted to come from me to the town board from planning board. So would somebody else like to make the motion?
So moved.
Motion from Earl, do I hear a second? I have a second from Chris. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
They can move it forward and still be behind those other two.
60 foot.
Yeah, they can move it back another 30 feet probably.
And the set that, well, there's not really any
Come on, they
trees
just want to
there.
build their house and they
There's
don't want it
nothing
lot. I mean, that's what.
I think you just come and see if you get a home run.
I think, yeah, he's given a try, but you can't blame him. He has somebody that wants to try. And you can't blame him at all.
The sale of his lot. He's been owned it for 15 years, wants to sell the lot, he's got a buyer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I bet they moved the house forward.
I don't think so. Which I think, Tom, you and I were talking earlier, you made a great point. The reason she's looking to move is because of what's going on at Wolfsburger Park and what's gonna be in her backyard.
Right. Yep.
And we have a conservation easement that protects that. So we can't, you can't have your cake and eat it too, I guess is my point.
They went for the enchilada, and they should have just gone for half of the sandwich.
There's a conservation easement over, or the
Did you get
field.
that, Betty?
I would have said tacos, but I don't know.
There was a food reference.
Sorry, Bonnie.
I think, yeah,
Yeah, he's just trying to hit a home run.
They can always come back with a site plan that has it. You know,
Right at the edge of it.
yeah,
order inventory and pitch it to the town board. We're taking out X amount of trees. We will give you conservation easement over here and protect. These trees are not in the conservation easement and they now will be. Something along those lines, but it's not up to us to tell the applicant how to do that or different. But I think also that you said that conservation easements are forever.
they're supposed to be.
We have E-pods, which are can we please development. But if you do, this is how you develop it, and then we have conservation easements, which is, stay out.
If Port, there's 100 and some feet on the north side of that property, so 65, all the way to the back, all the way to the town line,
Yeah.
Conservation.
for no reason other than it's a straight line.
Well, you gotta draw it somehow. All right,
I don't know why he didn't pitch, this made the salesman in me. I don't know why he didn't pitch it after he couldn't hit the home run. Why didn't he hit a double or a triple,
yeah,
set it up at 70, 75 feet, going, okay, looks pretty good,
Right.
get done. He's gonna come back again, the whole process, it just doesn't make sense.
Do you think they'll buy it anyway?
That's Jim's circles. I think Jim was pushing to move it back.
I think they got enough room to move it back. And I think that if you look at it, the original location is in line with the other homes. The one home is cockeyed a little bit, but that's,
But they're big lots too, so it's not like they're right next to each other.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's not like you're like right, your driveway and then the house and they're big lots. You're not gonna see,
Right,
10 feet isn't gonna make any difference on a big lot like that.
I don't,
and if they move it out of the easement, they'll still be behind the front line of the other two homes.
I agree. We have a Zell site plan next meeting. There's two things I want to say that was coming up, 2 or 3 coming up on the 16th. We have actually, thank you to the convention of social media, we have a special use permit coming up in the hamlet for a restaurant. Main Street Cafe
Oh, finally,
is moving into the hamlet, a second location.
second location, yeah.
And they, Corey said, our code enforcement said, I see you're doing work in here on social media.
I
and you're
wondered
talking
about
opening up a
that.
restaurant, you need a special use
I wondered.
permit, stop work order. So, they officially, it says 5 weeks. Michelle called me today from vacation. She said, do you want him to wait 5 weeks? I said, it's a special use permit. As long as he has the understanding, we might not have comments from the county. Get him in here so we can have a complete application. We want people in the hamlet.
Which building?
I was gonna say the old Annie's Closet.
That's what I was gonna say
You
too.
know Annie's Closet, the old nickel and dime place.
Yeah.
That's the pea pods.
That, was it the Peep House before Annie's?
No, no,
Closet?
pea pods is in that plaza.
Oh, yeah, yeah, so he's got parking
Well,
there.
it's probably pretty beat up after that nickels and dimes.
Oh, yeah.
I think he's got a
That
good
place
bit to
needs a
do.
lot of work.
But that's why I think he wants to get the permit so he can get the movie. I'm assuming it's gonna be the same business model over here, which he has milkshake Mondays and stuff like that,
He's
so.
rocking it over there. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
and the food is fabulous.
He's got gluten-free options, right?
He has just got a business plan that I don't know how or why, but it has taken off like wildfire. I mean, he does almost all the catering for the school now. Whenever we have an event or we've got to get food, the teachers have professional development day, they order all their meals from him and they deliver them and they, yeah.
And he donated a bunch of food to the youth center one day. He said, hey, let me bring food over one day.
I talked to Corey today. I said, you need to get a hold of him and let him know about Hillary's events. And set up a tent and, hey, I'm moving to the hamlet kind of thing. I think that would be.
I do want to make some reference on that to Hillary. Hillary's going to talk to Salvatore's Pizza, which is in Victor. Why would you talk to Pizza Tees?
We
in
talked
Clemenza?
about that at the meeting.
Yeah, but they didn't bring those two up because they were Salvatore's. I don't get it, but
Well, I think their Salvatore's is donating, was what Hillary's representative said.
yeah.
And
You think you'd have go to the other people's who are Salvatore's and don't want to donate instead?
I don't know if Pizza D's and Clemenza's is an independent business association. I think that might be where a good bit of the coordination is gonna happen before this.
To me, it's kind of asinine. You want to bring people in and have food from the area, you know what I mean?
Chris, I think chicken wing contest. Who's got the best chicken wings in the hamlet,
Right.
you know?
Oh no, that's a great idea.
Tom, he's talking about having a Dunkin' booth out there.
Are we Dunkin' Tom? Is that what you mean?
Soundboard
Offers, just the people that are up for election, that's.
Meet the candidates.
Nice.
Oh my goodness.
Chicken wings are shortage.
And yeah, Hillary did schedule the next meetings, right? Yeah, so hopefully it goes over well. Corey, our code enforcement is aware, fire's aware, and the public, I'm sure, will make any comments if there's any problems. So, guys, looks like we're gonna stay busy here for a while. If you have vacations, please let Michelle know. Who wants to do it? Who wants to make their favorite motion?
I did the last one, I think.
I will. Oh,
Lauren makes a motion
One
to
motion.
adjourn, and then Chris seconds.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I object.
Aye. I think it's.
Seems like a new position.
Actually, the last two, I think I might have mentioned this last time, last two ECB